Hi, this is David Lee, October 2025, and the year's passing so quickly. I hope you've been able to have a look at my newsletter for this month. I did that all in 2 hours. It just came off the top of my head what I wanted to say, because the warning signs are getting clearer and clearer from many varied people about the state of the world economy and what's going on. And it's something that I've been addressing on and off for the last 2 years, subtly just throwing in some hints about what I'm suspecting is happening. And that's why I've called it the financial fork in the road time. You win, you lose. It depends which path you're going to go down. And I wanted to be as clear as I could for you to understand my rationale, not to tell you what to think. This is from my perspective. This is from my bubble that I live in, but maybe we all live in a different world and we see and hear and interpret things in different ways, and we come up with our own assessment of what's going on in our world. So if I can understand you, then I may not agree with you, but I understand where you're coming from and your rationale. And if you can do the same, then you can hear from my perspective. But I've been involved with observing world economies, implementing strategies, whether it was for business or whether it was in real estate, for 30 years or more. And I've had to make my decisions based upon my observations. And that's why we ended up in the United Kingdom. That's why I got involved with property systems that were quite radically different to what was traditional in the 2000s. And for me, it's part of my makeup, my personality, that I can confront these issues when it's not popular all the time, when I'm going against the grain of what people think. It's just that I see things in a different light because I'm looking at different information and interpreting quite often differently to what people are seeing in the mainstream outside world. So if you've seen my newsletter, you'll see that I'm referring to gold, Bitcoin, and real estate. Now, these are three assets that will typically do well in an economy that many people are foreseeing. It's only natural, it's not being negative, to say that what goes up must come down. I've spoken to people at events and they will repeat it like sheep. What goes up must come down. But they don't understand the consequences because they keep doing exactly the same thing under the assumption that the world will stay the same. Now, the only constant in life is change, and therefore, are they prepared? Have they even thought about the consequence of their actions today, and what will happen if things turn in a different direction? Because I will continually ask them questions, and they will look and sound like everybody else in the room. And that's why I went to property meetings for 12 months. I think I attended, within 12 months, about 40 different property meetings and asking questions of people. I wanted to understand what's going on out there, not only from the people in the room, 50% of whom were newbies looking for a way to get financially free, but they never came back the next month. The majority didn't come back. Well, the answer was they realized they needed money to get started and they didn't have it. And also from the presenters, but they were already on the journey and they were always using money. Now, I want to show you as well, I have been drip feeding publicly what I foresee happening without being too brusque about it. So you can see here, I'm giving you different information of what's going on. And it's hearing different people, not the same voices every time, to get you to understand what's the best strategy in this time. an economic collapse. I've told you about this. People jumping into wealth creation, listening to the mainstream media at your risk. It's a health hazard, and showing you what I've done. You can see people putting these properties out on the market. It's just like 20 years ago. I told you how I got myself onto page one. There I am back in 2009 talking about how people wanted to suddenly know about this popular strategy, how I feel like a stranger, the market, the cycle that nobody seemed to understand when I explain it to them. How to find deals, the boiling frog syndrome. Remember what goes up? People just don't want to listen. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. There I am foretelling 2025 and strategies that will be applicable and getting you to think, do you want to be the stressed landlord or the motivated seller or both at the same time? I'm showing you history does repeat itself, putting out new content. And I showed you this as an example because what I foresaw, and in one of the videos I saw last week, he's using in his words exactly what I was talking about here. So that was September 2024. And what I could see and what he was talking about is if we just had one of these events, like a pandemic, or we had a bank failure, or just the digital currency, or the threat of war going on, if it was just once, we could get over it, because it was just the economic collapse in 2008. But I could foresee the convergence of all these global elements coming together, that it was going to be too big and too volatile for something not to happen. We know the Western countries are all suffering national debt that's just unsustainable. That's why they want to go to war, because as Gerald Celente says, look up that name, when all else fails, they take us to war. And then it could be any one of these things. Government tyranny, that's what I'm talking about. Don't trust the government. It's not a question of you're on the left or somebody else is on the right. They're lying to both of us and they want us to fight with each other. So I have to keep a balance. It's not easy at times because I'm in my bubble and not everybody understands my rationale from what I'm saying. That's why I'm sharing that with you. It's really, these things are converging now and something's got to give. Everybody feels that something's happening that's going to be bigger than what happened in 2008. And this time, governments cannot bail us out. They want to put on this digital currency worldwide. They want to create the problem and offer us the solution. I don't think this is conspiratorial theory. This is what's happening in the world. I have to look at it with a level head and saying to myself, where is this taking us to? And that's where I get to my reasoning for where I am today. The world is in crisis. I told people back in 2024, but as I told you, in 2021, I was preparing, and I've been preparing for the last 4 years of just that time. If and when that happens, I'll be as prepared as I can be. But unfortunately, there are going to be people out there that will not be able to afford to pay their mortgages if interest rates go up. Their values may go up, but normally in the short term there will be a drop in prices, but over the long term property is a hard value, and that's why, as we know, corporate landlords out there are encouraged to be buying up what they'll take from the distressed property investor or the homeowner that needs to sell up, that can't afford. And what I've explained in my newsletter is the situation at hand of where this cannot end well for many people.